What is up, guys? This is Linthio coming at you today with my debut Igknight deck profile. Now, yes, this might not be something you would have expected me to do, but it's something that it's kind of a little bit of a side project, and this is the first instance of the build. I'm definitely going to take it in a slightly different direction soon. But I shall show you basically how this version of the deck runs. It's very much the turbo version. So without further ado, we have the 3 Royal Magical Library, kind of standard, don't really say too much about it. One thing that I will say is with the up and coming formats, with the cards being certainly released, if I were to be still playing this deck, if I were to bring it to like a tournament, with Solemn Notice, I think it's called, or Solemn Advice, whichever one it is, the new counter trap that's 1,500 that you pay. These will be instantly swapped out for Denko Sekkas in the main, because everyone's going to be running it, and Denko Sekka gets around the card because you have to special summon or activate a monster effect. So it also helps with, like, you know, baiting out a warning and, you know, other just good back row stuff. But for now, it's kind of difficult to see how the format is actually shaped and how much back row is actually going to be in it. So for now, Royal Magical Library would be there, and, you know, depending on how I play or what decks I play, I can always side them out game 2 and 3. So, starting off with the level 4s, we have the 3 Igknight Templar. This card is lovely, really good. It's one of your main level 4s, along with Paladin. So I run 3 of each. I kind of don't really need to say too much about it. It's a level 2 and a level 7 scale. You want to get to these guys as quickly as possible for your wrong mini-ad plays, or just in general rank 4s. They're kind of just some of the best ones, and you want to see them as quickly as possible. And yeah, that's all I really need to say about them. So with the level 5s, I have 2 Cavalier and 2 Margrave. So you might be thinking, you know, you experienced Igknight players out there, why are you only running 2? Well, the issue is it's kind of deck space, and it's kind of just really annoying. Like, rank 5s are semi-decent, but rank 6s I just feel a little bit more comfortable with, and there's one that you'll see in a little bit. But with these, I just kind of stick with these. The ratios with these have been kind of nice, and I don't really miss them all that much. So that's kind of why I've only got 2 Margrave and 2 Cavalier. And then we have the 3 Galleon, and one of the other new cards, we have 3 Veteran. Now, these are slightly more versatile, being the you know, the higher defense with Variant, and also with, as I saw earlier, Margrave with the 2/4. So they're kind of like quite big because they bring better statistics to the board that some of the monsters kind of lack, if I'm completely honest. So having these is good. With the rank 6s, you'll see soon. But yeah, so that's kind of like the Igknight lineup. It's quite a lot of monsters, but yeah. So going on to the spells, we have the 3 Summoner's Art. Kind of don't really need to say too much about Summoner's Art. It's kind of obvious. It searches everything apart from Paladin and what's the other one? Paladin and Templar. So yeah, you use them. Normally use Rotor, but I'll show you one card that I've kind of used to replace Rotor. But yeah, so next up we have Chicken Game. The deck's kind of focused around one of the certain cards that I have in my trap lineup, which you can probably guess, but I'll go to in a sec. So Chicken Game, really important card to get to that. You don't mind giving your opponent life points on not being able to do as much damage, because you'll want to lock them out. And then I have the 1 Ignatian Phoenix. This just helps me if I've drawn slightly more dead hand, or I want to try and get more counters on Royal Magical Library. It means that I don't have to destroy my whole Pendulum Scales to keep looping. It just means that I can destroy one, get another, and it's basically 2 counters on Royal Magical Library. So it's quite nice, and the extra additional 300 attack and defense isn't too shabby either, bringing like Veteran up to like 3k, for example. 3 Upstart Goblin. You're giving your opponent life points, you want to lock them out, you're just trying to get to your combo pieces as quickly as possible. It kind of doesn't really need to say too much about it, to be honest. And also 2 Mystical Space Typhoon. I've only got 2, I would side the 3rd, depending on the matchup. Again, it depends on how the format goes. It's very early days right now, and Cosmos look like the big one. They don't have that much back row, so MST is quite nice. And yeah, but as I said, you just want to see your main combo piece as quickly as possible. So we have the 1 reinforcements of the army, because it's been hit, unfortunately, which is a bit of a sad one. But one thing, that's obviously to search out your Ignite, your Templar and your Paladin. But one of the new ones is Painful Decision. Now, if you don't know what Painful Decision is, it is a spell card, obviously. And its effect is you can send 1 level 4 or lower normal monster from your deck to the graveyard. And if you do, add 1 card with the same name from your deck to the graveyard. You can only activate it once per turn. So you can see how it replaces Rota. And it just means that you can get to your Templars and your Paladins much quicker. And I know that it means that you would lose one of the level 4s. That kind of is a little bit difficult, but there is one card now that I'm going to show you that kind of helps with it, which is Pot of Riches. Now, this card kind of a lot of people don't really run, and I completely get why. But my deck is focused on getting out Ron Miniad as well, but there is a certain card that I prefer to use, and it means that this works well, of course, with as I just showed you, Painful Decision, because it means that I can send them to the grave, and then Pot of Riches can just shuffle them back into the deck, so I can kind of keep going. Yes, the downside is that I can only Pendulum Summon the turn I activate this card, but if you're, going after the Tyrant's Throws, it's not too bad. So the Pot of Riches at 1 is really nice, and it kind of works well. And I do like it, because it means that I do have more targets in the deck if I want to keep recycling. Next up, the Trap lineup. It's quite small, but this card's just so dumb. It's just ridiculous. This deck in general is quite degenerate, in my opinion. I'll be the first person to admit it, and I'm playing it. You basically open up this and say 3 Ignites or a way to search them out, and you kind of lock them down. One of the main combos is that you'll have this, and you'll just go off, and you end up with 4 vanillas on the field, which isn't terrible. As long as 2 of them are level 4s, you can go into like Cargon, for example, and it just means that you can bounce away any of the MSTs that your opponent might have for this card. But this is just so dumb. This card is ridiculous, and it's so good. You can just apply more pressure with all of your Ignites. Yes, you can't XYZ summon, but the way that you should be using this card is just to activate it as quickly as possible. Like, lock down your opponent, and that is it. So Tyrant's Throw is just a really good card for the deck. Then we have the 1 Skill Drain. I only really run, as you saw, vanillas, and it's a really good card. Like, it's a good card against the meta that it looks like right now, and just in general, it's good because you have things like the Cavalier that has a big attack. You have the different paladins, and the field spell that allows you to give extra attack as well, so it kind of works really well with it. And Skill Drain in general is just quite a good card. Depending on what you go against, you can kind of side it out. And then finally, the 1 Vanity's Emptiness. So it's quite a small trap lineup. It's the way that I kind of like it. But depending on how I actually want to run the deck, I don't know. It's a bit difficult, and I'll change it and shape it to how the actual format plans out. But for now, it's going to stay like this. So that is the main deck. Going on to the extra deck, we'll start with the rank 4s. We have number 86. This card is just such a boss. You only really run 1. If it gets warninged or anything like that, then hey, you're probably going to lose because you've just used 4 to 5 monsters for it. And but if you successfully summon this card, you successfully resolve it, it's just kind of dumb because your opponent effectively loses a turn. You should only really be summoning this if you can get at least 4 level 4 materials on it. If you are going for like 3 materials, it's just kind of not really worth it. It's not the point of the deck. The deck is meant to lock them down, and the way that you do it is through this, or you do it through Tyrant's Throws. And that's kind of it, really. You can make obviously different plays if you can't get to it, because every time you can't. But 86 is a really solid card and just really good. So there's that. Then we have the Daigusto Emerald. Again, bringing back vanillas from the grave that might have been sent there through Xyz or any negation effects. The ones Steel Storm Roach. This is kind of one that I'm kind of umming and ahhing over. It can be useful depending on what's pendulum summoned, or anything like that. So Cosmos, it just kind of depends. So Roach is one card that is sometimes overlooked. Then we have the 1 Silent on our Arc. Really good card, just in general. The 1 Excalibur, technically this would be your towers out, but clees are no longer really a thing. So just in general, it's just a nice big beater if you want to try and get over stuff. I suppose like you know, Dark Destroyer or something. I don't know, like, it's just completely up to you, pushing for a bit extra more damage, and it's only, like, you know, like 2 level 4s. Same with Blade Armor Ninja, just pushing for more damage. It's a pretty solid card. One of your main combo pieces that if you have Tyrant's Throw, you'll make sure you want to try and summon this alongside it, because as I said, it means that you can protect those Tyrant Throws for days, and it's just really, really nice. The one Castel, get rid of any problem cards. The one Abyss Dweller, this is good against things like Gradles, for example. I know you might be thinking, scoffing, like Gradles, what is that? But just in general, it's just a decent card. It depends what you're going against. And all things like that. So next up we have a Gaia Charger. This is here because I have rank 5s and rank 6s, you know, if I just want to do any piercing damage, so on and so forth. The one Photon Strike Bouncer, it's a quite a solid thing to summon. Depending on what you're going up against, it's kind of alright first turn if you know what you're going up against, but as I said, you just play it depending on how you actually, what your opponent's playing and the usual stuff. Now, this is one that's going to turn a couple of eyes, to be honest, because it's one that I was like, well, this is a bit random, but Hazy Flame Basilisk. So, if you don't know what this does, you need 2 or more level 6 fire monsters that are all fire in this deck. Once per turn, you can attach a material from this card to target one monster your opponent controls or is in the graveyard, banish the target. This card gains effects based on the number of materials attached to it. So if it's 3 or more, you gain 200 attack and defense for each. 4 or more, it can't be targeted by your opponent's card effects, and 5 or more, it can't be destroyed by card effects. So it stacks all of those effects. So if you can't get to number 86, this is one of the next best things. I play 6 level 6s, so it's, you know, pretty simple to get to, and this card can cause a really big headache for some people, arguably sometimes more than number 86, because unlike 86, you don't have to attach for this card, so you can keep its effect. You don't need to banish anything, but the banishing is just really good as well. And just in general, like, I quite like the card simply because yeah, it's just sometimes people just don't really you know, expect it, and it's just really nice to see some people's faces kind of drop. So next up we have for the final rank 6, we have number 39 Utopia Beyond. This is just for a little bit of OTK based pushing, and just in general a 3k beta is nice. Then for the level 5s, I only have 2, and I'll say that you can put in sorry, not Zenmaya, you can put in Volcasaurus. I can't find my Volcasaurus for the life of me, so if I do find it, and when I do find it, Volcasaurus would be in here. What I would take out, I'm not sure, maybe one of the rank 4s. But yeah, so you can kind of just play that by ear a little bit if yourself. But first up we have Zenmaya. This card's really nice just for clearing back row. You know, if you only have a certain amount of cards on the field and you're fearing like some warning or something, you can kind of go a little bit slower and pop, you know, some of the back row, try and bait out any of those negation traps or anything like that, so that you can successfully kind of go off a little bit later. But yeah, Zenmaya's quite nice. And then finally Durandal, because, you know, opening up this and Tyrant's Throw, excuse me, or something like that, and being able to shuffle your opponent's hand back into the deck is kind of good. And also being able to protect it, you know, you can MST something else, so it's really, really nice. But that is the deck profile. Now, I don't know how many people would be happy seeing this deck on my channel, but, you know, I'm just doing something that I enjoy, and Igknight is kind of just this one of these speed decks, turbo decks that I quite enjoy. You know, I play Herald, so you can understand why I enjoy a deck that locks down. But as I said, so going into the future, this deck is going to evolve in certain ways. The Royal Magical Libraries are probably going to come out for Denko Sekkers. And I might consider putting in other, say, anti-meta cards that, you know, will really slow down some decks depending on how I go against it. But I don't want to get away from the core fact that this is kind of an OTK deck. It just means that it's a little bit more flexible depending on what I've got in here. You know, you can change around with the ratios here. Not too bad. The Summoner's Arts stay at 3 for my opinion. Chicken Game really helps. The Ignition you can always take out. The Upstarts, the MSTs you can take out as well. Painful Decisions, you don't have to run them. I just think it helps with the speed. Pot of Riches, you know, and then the 3 Tyrant's Throw. I think some people play 2, but I just want to see it as quickly as possible. Like, even if you draw 2, excuse me, it's kind of still good. And then these, obviously, it's meta dependent what you go against. But as I said, that is the deck profile. So I hope you did enjoy it of my Igknights post docs. It's a really fun deck, as I said, and some people do get super salty when they play it. Again, I will admit this is a degenerate deck. Like, I'm not saying this requires like a crazy amount of skill to play. You do need to think of your plays and kind of preempt what your opponent's playing, but any good player will be able to do that. So, as I said, Let me know down in the comment section below what you think of the deck. It's really fun, so it's just up to you if you prefer these types of decks or not. Make sure to give me a like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you think of the deck and how it should evolve in the future, and I shall catch you guys later.